We were going to introduce each other. We've just been beautifully introduced, but I'll do it again. This is Gregor Pötzsch. He's the product owner for radio at CARIAD, who make brilliant radio experiences for all kinds of brilliant vehicles.
And this is Nick, the marvelous director of the RadioDNS, making the very best metadata available in the car possible.
So now that we've fully complimented ourselves, we'll explain a little bit about what we're talking about this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks meeting with us. I'm here to tell you about, it's not all about user experience, it's first about technical standards, because you can't solve or bring in anything into the car without the technical standards. But yeah, technical standards are just paper weight somewhere in the drawer. You need to make them feel alive, and this is what we help in the automotive group. We help to ensure the user experience, like you can see in this very nice pictures.
So in order to bridge that transition from what are quite dry, dense technical documents where all the essential detail is held into bright, exciting, engaging implementations, we provide guidelines. And guidelines are basically the accessible way of understanding how to make radio look great in the dashboard. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about what those guidelines are and why they're important that you use them. One of the reasons that we do this work is that the technical standards are actually extremely broad. They allow for an awful lot of functionality. And one of the big challenges is to make sure that the functionality that broadcasters invest in is the same functionality that's being created in the vehicle. Because the worst case scenario is that broadcasters create functionality that isn't supported in the vehicle, and that vehicle manufacturers implement functionality that broadcasters aren't supporting. Now, you may well be asking the question, and I'll ask it for you on your behalf of Gregor. Why don't you just implement all of the functionality that's in the standards?
Yeah, first thing, it's always, you can't implement everything. It's cost and money, and we are also focusing on the customer ones we get back from our customers. So it's not only get all and be happy, it's also about delivering the best and easiest possible user experience, like we saw in the previous presentation, because you'd like to have it simple and easy to access.
So let's talk about how those guidelines make that simplicity possible, even with great implementation. So the first guideline we're going to talk to you about is our user experience guidelines. The user experience guidelines is a very easy to read document that explains to you what a great radio experience should look like and how the component parts of it come together. It's a document we've worked on not just in the European context, but with our partners in North America, with the North American Broadcasters Association. So from a manufacturer point of view, you can be sure that what we're expecting to have in Europe is extremely close to the expectation of broadcasters in North America as well. And it goes into things like, what does a good design look like? What's a good behavior for something, for instance, like saving a preset? How should radio sit alongside in the dashboard things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, understanding specifically one of those key points from the research? People really appreciate the fact that radio is one button push away. We also talk a bit about how hybrid radio can be used to build that extended experience, and more recently, and we'll talk a bit more in detail about this in a second, how you can make voice assistants work really well with radio. I've grabbed one page out of the guidelines so you can get an idea of roughly the kind of format. This is an example of how we think a great radio layout should be presented to the user, what the component parts of it should be, and how they should be visible and how they should interact.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, can you go back again, please?
Yeah, I think, did we lose one?
Yeah.
Oh, no, go, you go. That's
right. Thanks again. Yeah, this is what we are strive for in the automotive group. It's as we tend to deliver and strive for the ease of use, we also need to give some guidelines, because all of you know the radio experience with the dial of the frequencies. No user experience needed, because it's just two knobs. And now we are living in a world where we like to have nice station logo, cover arts, metadata accompanying the actual audio. So it's very important to don't pull the customer with too much data. So it needs to be subtle, easy to be read, and don't distract the driver. Back to you, Nick.
And that was my cue to talk to you about another very, very important issue that we've looked at, which is driver distraction. And we shouldn't underestimate how very important this is. When you're driving at 50 kilometers an hour, which is 30 miles an hour for those of us working in Imperial still, in 1 second, a vehicle travels 15 meters. If you take your eyes off the road for just 1 second, you go a long way down the road before you see where you are again. So we wanted to help people understand how to implement that better radio experience without causing additional distraction for the driver. And these are guidelines not just for manufacturers, but also for broadcasters in how they should author and present content to drivers. It's about establishing a common understanding over things like how big should text be, and should pictures move? No, they shouldn't. This is some more slides pulled from that pack that we use to explain what we mean when we say the left-hand side is bad for driver distraction. It's impossible for anyone to read that text in 1 second. It's illegible. So use the guidelines on the right-hand side where we talk about what's the minimum size font you should use, how much text should be on the screen to make it still a great user experience, but one that the driver can look at and consume within 1 second. I mentioned voice assistants. Voice assistants are obviously getting very, very important in the vehicle. The voice assistant support, getting that right, makes the navigation of radio stations by voice so much easier. We've just added a new guideline, which is our aliases and phonemes, how you do voice assistant support for how radio stations provide voice information to the vehicle to make that voice detection more accurate and more easy for the driver to use.
That's coming back to me. So I'm looking for the possibility to make you look, all the broadcasters, nice in the car, because what we learned inside easy station lists, of course, you can find your stations, but while reading more than 1 second, it's getting dangerous, and we learned, yeah, it's a lot easier to actually attach with the station logo because it's just colors. You can easily grab the information, and yeah, you just need to know I like this more yellowish logo, and you can directly tap it. So it's a big improvement to get along. And this is where we actually pull information and help the broadcasters as well as the manufacturers to leverage this possibility as good as possible, asking the broadcaster, if you want to look nice, deliver the data, and asking the manufacturers, please use the data which is coming through broadcast or through online means over RadioDNS or radio player, and enrich the experience for the user. And finally, this is going also both to the broadcasters and the manufacturers. There's actually 5 possibilities in sizes leveraging station logos, because like here in this example, if you just have a station list, you have very small logos, it's easier to use smaller logos. But if you are in the big dashboard, just showing the current station, of course you like to have one of the bigger logos, so it's important you design your screen that you are able to leverage the best cover possible. And on the other side, for the broadcasters, it's important to deliver the different sizes to actually improve the visibility in the car.
It's becoming one of the most critical pieces of implementation for broadcasters, isn't it? That getting the logos right in vehicles, right size, right resolution, making sure you've got the latest version is really, really important, because when it's wrong, it's awful for broadcasters.
Yeah, and the big topic on all of those guidelines, it's a possibility for you to step in if you see topics to improve. Of course, join us. We are an open group. We are open for you to participate, because if we have all the use cases the broadcasters and the car manufacturers can imagine, we can improve the guidelines and in the end improve the user experience for all of you.
That's it. That's our presentation on the activities around guidelines in WorldDAB. Thank you very much.